Cool. Is the audio working? Audio check. Get to experience the latency they stuff, because when people watch stuff, sometimes people well, they expect immediate verbal feedback, but seeing how this software works firsthand, then I could see how the audio. Oh, nice, cool. Yeah. Anyways, I don't even know how many people are seeing this. The idea is not a content driven thing. People will play games or do all sorts of stuff when they're streaming. My idea here with this stream is if you just be hanging out and doing stuff anyways, it's like a virtual room. So you might come in and you might see your friend and you might say hello. So in the same way, it's just like Google and all these people. They provide all the servers and technology for free. They're already tracking us anyways, so might as well get some perks uh, and use it ourselves. So that's the idea of why I wanted to at least have this pipeline set up to try and see that this works. Oh yeah, so Justin says I've been thinking about streaming drawing. Yeah, that's another thing. Probably at this point, like if even with I'm using like a super old webcam and like really cheap equipment. Like I bought this. This is a tower PC I bought for $300 used. So I'm not using anything fancy here. So to do anything kind of like drawing or video games or whatever, you probably need a lot more advanced of a setup. So but that would be really cool. Yeah, I think it's just like think back at grade school or something. That's one thing I used to like to do. Would be I would sit around and I'd draw pictures, or a friend would be doing the same thing, and you might just learn a lot by just sitting around. Watch your friend do something and talk to people nearby. So I think a lot of us were people that don't live with family, especially like not married and stuff. So for a lot of us, it's basically just being public to kind of have a live stream going. It's just like, what if you could go into like, I don't know, a marketplace or something, and you could just start talking to people, not directly buying or selling anything, but go down to like a bar, but you don't have to pay like $7 or whatever to get a drink, and you don't have to drink if you don't want to drink. We could be cool sober cats here. All right, Xa says he's logging in. He's probably used to logging in for his stream. I should probably type what's happening. So, the only place I shared this stream as of now is on the Zali Discord. And actually, I'll link Zaw's site. Oh, sweet. Okay, so we have the East Lab with us today. Hello, Xali. Xali.info, why aren't you loading? I was gonna send the link to your Discord. There we go. I promise, I didn't just do a DDoS attack of your server. Okay. Xali Discord. Copy link address. Alright, cool. So it sounds like, yeah, the audio is working. the chat's working. We had a little report of delay of video. That's probably a limitation of how fast my computer is. I have a laptop that might be faster, so if people are actually interested in looking at this stuff, then I might have to also try out using that laptop or even investing in some more hardware. If it would actually pay anything. If it wouldn't, then, as long as the audio works and I could, show another window if I wanted to, then that would kind of be the main thing. Oh, another analogy that I was kind of thinking about with this is if you have a house and you host an event, or even, well, I think that term, it goes way back. It's like a radio host or something. So what does the host do? Well, the hosts, they have a place where people could go, right? Like a host, they have the house or the room, and then people come for entertainment in the sense of maybe get something to eat or drink and spend some time just being there and talking with people, listening to stories, maybe have some cool music going on, whatever it might be. I'm not playing music here. You could turn on music if you want, if you're watching. With a lot of YouTubers, it's interesting. You see a lot of different approaches to how people might try to do some videos. This sort of format, which is kind of like a spontaneous vlog, has always been kind of interesting to me, because these are people that they don't spend hour upon hour editing or adding special effects, preparing slideshows, that sort of thing. There's a lot of people that just record videos, oftentimes shorter videos, maybe between 5 and 20 minutes, something like that. Maybe that's a trick for the YouTube algorithm, so they could get more likes and subscribes. Anyways, the point is that a lot of people, they do that sort of thing, and I think that with minimal production effort, they are still often very successful at what they do, in terms of getting people engaged, getting people to go to the channel, maybe even being monetized, getting donations, that sort of thing. So if you want to be a lazy person that chooses the path of least resistance in order to do something such as getting out content, then I think just a very basic setup where the technology is good enough that it's not annoying, but not so that the tech becomes the focus of the stream itself. Because if you look at channels that have a lot of production value or money, I mean, as an individual, if you just decide to make videos as a hobby or a side thing, or my goal here is, if I'd be doing something anyways, such as talking or meeting people on the internet, then one of my ideas behind making a channel or setting up the technology to be able to do so, at least, is that you could potentially grow and build something for an activity that you would do anyways. Like an equivalent would be, let's pretend you have a hobby, like you like to play music, you play violin or something. So if you just do it by yourself, you have your reward for what you do. You could enjoy the music. A lot of people like to do that. But on the other hand, if you're able to share and play with other people and so on and so forth, maybe even teach other people, if other people see what you're doing and they like it, then there's a lot of potential payoffs for that. Most importantly, I think you'll be able to meet a lot of people who are interested in the same sorts of things as you, and who knows what could come through those connections. You could make new friends all around the world, right? Maybe you meet somebody and then you don't know they have a friend or a relative that is into something else that you're interested in doing. So anyways, coming full circle, Um, Google, Facebook, now under the name Meta, and a lot of these different people, they're collecting a bunch of data and stuff on us anyways. So a question to ask is, well, okay, if this is just how things are, you go to a supermarket or whatever, there's cameras pointed at you all the time. Anyways, this is just a fact. This isn't being paranoid or anything like that. This is just how it is. So we live in this world, and things are working this way. We could ask ourselves, how do we respond to that? And I think that one of the most profitable ways we could respond to that is to see the situation as it is clearly, such as, all right, if you're using these Google services, don't even pretend or attempt to protect your privacy, meaning don't install some weird fancy Linux distribution and do all that, and then right as you're doing that, log on to Gmail. If you're going to go Gmail, then you might as well go full Google. So that's what I'm doing here, right? It's like, all right, Google, you know my name, my age, a bunch of people I contact, all of this sort of stuff. That's settled, verifiable, right? Do you even know the places I go to? Have you guys, if you go on Google Maps or probably use an Android. I have an Android phone, so I don't know if Apple's the same way. But I got these emails. It was like, oh, you've gone such and such miles this month. Here are some of the cool places you visited. And it actually showed a bunch of the towns I visited. And I was like, that's actually true. So one thing I decided to do was, rather than say, oh no, Google's tracking me, oh, what do I do? Which I think a lot of people do. And I say that because you could find all sorts of videos and tutorials and stuff about people protecting their privacy. Now, if you assume that this stuff is happening anyways, there have been cameras at traffic lights for a long time, I'm sure even, then rather than fighting it, you could ask the question, like, this is kung fu, right? How do I move with the water? How do I move with the stream? So with respect to Google, that's to say, all right, Google, they do take a lot from us. That's true. So you could ask, on the other side, though, Google does provide a lot for us. So how could we extract as much as we can of the value of the services that they provide us, while recognizing that they're going to take some taxes from us anyways? Thinking of, oh, that's interesting. So I'll use like a tax analogy here. It's just like, okay, everybody has to pay taxes, whether or not you like it. Unless you're gonna break the law and be a tax evader, you're paying your taxes. I pay my taxes. I'm not gonna snitch on you if you don't pay your taxes, but you should probably pay your taxes. Okay. That being said, you could look at who makes use of the services that the taxes go towards, and who doesn't. So, for instance, let's suppose you live in like a town, you pay a bunch of taxes, but you never leave your house and your backyard. Well, your taxes are paying for all these really nice public parks. So if you're just like pacing back and forth in your backyard all the time, and you're paying taxes anyways to have like a very nice park with some ducks and some geese, a big soccer field, all sorts of nice things for you, and meet new friends at the tennis court, whatever, then you might as well make use of these nice things that you have, because just by living in that place, by being alive and breathing, then you're going to be tracked and traced in any number of ways by the government, civil authority, whatever. So you're already paying into the system, and it's not like, if you're like on principle, oh, I don't use public parks. It's like, well, whatever, if you're not going to use it, somebody else is, and if nobody's using it and it just sits there, this is like a really huge, nice backyard that everyone pays for and nobody uses. If you drive around, you'll probably see a lot of these places. Maybe a little bit less now in post 2020, as a lot of people have taken the remote work slash freelancing approach. I think you'll have a lot of people with flexible hours that do choose to use and enjoy these spaces. But I remember, and when I do visit and go to these places, a lot of the times I'm rather surprised at how, you could say, for the niceness of the place and what is being provided, surprisingly few people take advantage of what is abundantly available. So I think we could turn around and returning to the topic of YouTube and streaming and so on and so forth, which is to say, YouTube and all these things, yeah, we could almost look at them as a public utility in a way, and that you're actually allowed to go around the park and walk around, and who knows who you might meet there. So the difference with that and YouTube, of course, is that YouTube is like digital on the internet, such that you could get people from all around the world, provided you choose to stream in the right time zone. Oksa says his wife is here to watch, so hello to her, and hello to Ksa. I think Ksa, yes, Ksa has pioneered the way with a lot of internet technologies for me, showing me a lot of things. I think one of the things that he said about streaming was that New York time, if you assume New York time and choose a reasonable New York time, then you get a good global reach. So I don't know what the New York time zone is. I'll have to look up plus or minus however many hours. But yes, little tips like that, it could make or break something, I think. Cool. Okay, so let me just return to the topic that I was discussing, which is how Google live streaming this sort of stuff, it is kind of like a public park, something that your taxes already pay for. So we could look at the internet. I mean, you look at the news today. There's all this talk, big tech monopoly, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Okay, could you personally do anything about it? That's a question to the complainers. So if you're busying yourself complaining or getting upset about these things, you could ask yourself, all right, is there actually anything I'm trying to do? Because if the answer is no, then you're wasting your time, like just getting upset. Nothing good comes out of that. So what you could ask instead is to say, all right, things are this certain way. Now what do we do in order to work with what's there and do something profitable out of it, like extract some value. And it's not a selfish thing too, because if you're able to use something well and provide value to other people, then that's a service. It's just, we'll return to the public park example again. Like, imagine if you have a hobby like juggling. As a child, I like to do juggling, like, circus stuff, right? Pretty fun, good. It gets your arms moving. But if you do such a thing, let's pretend you do it by yourself, but then you decide to do it at a public park, then suddenly your private activity that you do has the potential to open you up to meeting new people. Now, of course, you also open yourself up to more other things that could happen, like a bird could poop on your head, if you go outside, a bird could poop on your head, but like staying in a building, no bird is going to poop on my head. Well, you ask yourself, right, is not going outside and risking a bird pooping on my head is that worth it to not do the thing? Am I so scared of such a thing that I don't want to do that? And if the answer is no, then I think a lot of the times it is worth it to cross the street. Let me elaborate on that one. So, if you learn about statistics, like there is this famous or infamous book called How to Lie with Statistics, something like that. That supposedly Bill Gates recommended this book. I haven't looked into whether that is true, so we'll let the fact checkers handle that. Anyways, the point of this is to say we could look at a lot of things in life, and there's a sort of statistical way to look at it, which is to say, statistically, if you go outside, what are the chances you're going to get hit by a car? What are the chances that someone's going to hold you up at gunpoint, and so on and so forth. And if you look at this stuff all the time, then you might say, wow, living is actually very dangerous or something, right? These numbers, which a company like an insurance company will use, like an actuary, their job is to calculate and work out these things so that the insurance company could charge rates on stuff. Is that a healthy way to approach the world for a normal person? Personally, I believe no. It's not good to be calculating and fearful. Instead, you should just do stuff if you have good reason to do it. Numbers don't matter. You should not calculate. Now, does that mean, just be reckless and stupid and do things that are dangerous? Of course not. But you don't do things that are unnecessarily dangerous because of statistics. You do it because you understand your strengths and your weaknesses. So, for example, would I go around and play with like a samurai sword, katana? Would I go around and play with a sharp blade? It's like, well, no, because I'm not very skillful with it, so it's very possible to see how I could accidentally do something that is not good for anybody doing that. So that is like this term reckless. You don't want to be reckless. On the other hand, for instance, you could say, should I be afraid to talk to people? If you have something to say to somebody, a lot of times you could say, what is the worst that could happen, really, in normal circumstances? So suppose you see somebody at a coffee shop, and with them they have like a quite a rare book that you wouldn't really expect to see, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I wonder why they're choosing to read that book of all books. You could ask if you're really interested and you really care, and before you know it, you might have met somebody that has some very interesting things to say. You might learn a lot from choosing to be public, in the sense that you expose yourself to an interaction with somebody else, which could be difficult. What if the person says, none of your business, or it's nothing, and kind of doesn't want to talk to you? Well, that could be the worst that could happen under any normal circumstances. Of course, you could come up with all sorts of stories about how it could be terrible, but I don't think that that's a useful thing to do. Okay, so let's bring this back on topic again, talking once again about Google and internet streams and that sort of stuff. So back on topic is to say, it is not a nothing burger to create a stream, or even to create like a blog or something, but to publicly show your face and your name and all this sort of thing and put yourself out there, I think is a kind of action that does not take nothing to do. That's another thing that Xa Lee, who's kind enough to visit us here in the chat, has taught me. He phrased it in a more funny way. It was like, show your face, don't be a coward, something like that. We could. Where's the chat box? I could try out this technology and type that. Oh yes. Sali taught me, show your face, don't be a coward. And I think that there's a lot of you could analyze how it is that is a good policy. One criticism that people have about the internet and how it affects society is, you could find countless articles saying, oh, there's trolls on the internet. Everybody is, anonymous, so they're mean to each other, and so on and so forth. There's this idea that people, they disappear on the internet behind some kind of avatar or nickname or something like that, and then through doing that they enter into a role where in a certain way they do have a kind of power by being anonymous, in that they could do all sorts of stuff, but then nobody else could do things back to them, at least directly. So for example, if I make an anonymous account and I go and I write comments just criticizing everybody on YouTube, like, oh, your hair looks funny, oh, what an idiot, blah, blah, blah. You go in and you do that. I mean, there's a sense in which you can freely attack in that sort of way. I don't think that's good for you, so I would say don't do that. But you can. These are things that you can do that I think you shouldn't do. And there are a lot of people that do that. So what is the effect of that? Well, I think that a lot of people, they see that sort of hostility, or they see that sort of thing, and then they determine that the price, or what it takes to be a public person is not worth it. So then they might disappear into this mass of people that says, okay, I just look at what other people do, and nothing wrong with not being public on the internet. I think not everyone has to do it, but I think that for people that do choose to go on the internet a lot, and that do try to do something productive on the internet at least, I think that it's very useful to be public, and one of the reasons for that is that you could start to build up something. So yes, as friend Xa Lee in the chat is here, I will say of him, for example, one thing that he kind of pioneered was just maintaining and building and writing a very large website full of lots of information about a lot of different things. Now, what's cool about this is these are things that he would be interested anyways. Xa Lee, feel free to correct the record if I misspeak on anything. But basically, I'm saying good things about you and your site, so I don't think that there'll be anything to correct. Okay, so this is to say, I think that one thing that's cool about this website is we have an individual who just basically has taken the time and the effort over many, many years to build up this site, just writing about topics that he is looking about anyways. Now, you do make yourself vulnerable in a certain sense when you leave the comments section open, so to speak. So when you decide to be a creator, you decide to give a concert, not just to listen to and choose which band you like. You're doing the thing. Of course, there's going to be lots of people, haters going to hate, whatever you want to call it, for what you do. But despite all these negative feedback or insults or whatever you might take, what happens is that you establish yourself and you become a point of reference. By definition, the person that is trying to be anonymous or kind of slip through the cracks, they're not doing that. They don't really have a brand or anything. They're impersonal because they don't want to be a target of any criticism or whatever it is that they're trying to avoid. Maybe they just want to be part of a mob or something. And, hey, there's a time and a place for being anonymous and stuff. So that's not to say that that's bad. But if you choose to make yourself a public person that could be referred to, that people could reach out to and contact, and so on and so forth, then you more uniquely position yourself for lots of benefits as well. And things could happen to you that could not happen to the person that does not choose to take those steps. So we'll go back to the musician example again. So of course, if you choose to actually play music, the first obvious effect with that is you'll probably get better at a lot of things. So if you're publicly playing music, then you're going to get over so-called stage fright. You're going to get better at your instrument. You're going to encounter new people with new ways of doing things, and you could pick up the techniques that you like and that you don't like. You could say, all right, I saw how this person did that. I don't want to do it that way. But perhaps the most important thing is that you open yourself up to connecting with a lot of different people, and that means your life basically becomes richer, right? People will complain about stuff like, oh yeah, it's so hard to make friends, oh I don't meet people, and a natural response to that question is, all right, if that's the case, then what are you doing such that there's opportunities for good things to happen? So if you just never put yourself in a position where you're talking to anybody, then do you think that you're just gonna make friends that way? I would say it's possible. Somebody might go up to you. I'm sure it's happened. But I would say that usually the answer is no. I think oftentimes what people need to meet other people is you need some kind of context. So my own background, for a bunch of years, I was in graduate school. And in graduate school, naturally, there's an order in which people meet each other. It's called class schedules, or an academic year, academic calendar. So if you're in the same class as somebody and you talk to them, there's nothing really strange about that, because it's a pretty normal thing to get to know the people that are doing the same thing as you, no matter what that thing is that you're doing. So in a class, for instance, if I turned to the person next to me and I said, hey, my name is such and such, I would like to at least know the contact information of one person in this class, because let's pretend I'm sick or you're sick, something happens with the schedule in this class. It'd be nice to have at least somebody to sort of check with, to say, oh, I'm running late. Is the professor running late? Is class canceled? Something like that. It's good to just know people for this sort of thing. So just a very normal setting like a classroom, you literally pay money to be in a room to receive some kind of service with other people when you sign up for some kind of education. But when you pay that money, one thing that it does it's not just like the knowledge that you get from doing it. You could watch like a YouTube lecture by yourself to learn basically anything that you would want to know. So what's different about the classroom? I think that an important thing that's different about the classroom is, as I'm saying, this context that you have in which you can meet other people. I don't want to call it an excuse. I'll just keep on using the word context. You have a context in which you could meet somebody else, and through something that you share in common, that you care about, because it's the immediate program that you signed up for. You signed up for a class, so you want to get the value from the class, and meeting other people, and doing well in the tests, maybe sharing notes, stuff like that. These are all things that you could do. You could work with these other people towards a common goal. I'll say the same thing too about coworkers. Like, I think oftentimes people could make friends with coworkers, and I mean coworker here in a very broad sense. So suppose you're on a tour group, okay? Do people make friends in tour groups? I'm sure a lot of people make friends in tour groups. So the people that are together on a tour group, they're co-workers in a more abstract sense, and say that they're people that are doing a similar project together. Let's say, they need to get from the airport to the shared hotel together, and then they want to make a city tour together the next day. So it's not work in the sense of, they don't get a W-2 form from an employer or whatever, but they're coworkers in the sense that they're working towards some sort of goal together. And then I think naturally when people are doing something like that, working together, then you get a context by which people are able to meet each other. And what are the things that might bridge the conversation that they might start talking with each other about? I mean, it could even be, hey, our tour guide did something funny, right? Oh, why does he wear his glasses like that? Or, who did it sound like she was talking on the phone to whatever it might be. It could be any number of things. But what's crucial is that by doing some project of some kind together, then you establish some sort of mutual context. Okay, so let's return back on topic to streaming and this sort of thing, and why I think that it's a very interesting and useful vehicle that people who want to make use of it could extract great benefit from. And I'll use the Xali website as an example. A lot of people, they found the Xali website. They're researching various technology topics, to name a few: keyboards, JavaScript, Unicode. These are a bunch of reasons why people might have found their way to this site. And on this server, I would say that I've seen a lot of people make friends with each other, and I've made a lot of friends here. So the question is, what are the lessons that we have to learn from this, and how can we take the ideas that work and extend them to make something better? So as I was saying with this example of kind of coworker stuff, I think that one thing that brings people together is some shared sort of work or some purpose in what they're doing. In the case of the Xali website and the Discord server that I'm advertising here, we have a lot of people that are interested in technology, but then also more broadly, society, the history of the internet, stuff like this. Xali has a bunch of very interesting essays about all sorts of topics. Like here's one here: the Unix pestilence, and this goes through the history of a lot of the hype around various technologies, sort of cult-like mentality that arises in people who are not, they're probably not overtly religious, yet they manifest behavior that one might call religious, in the sense of being devoted to a thing, ritualistic behavior, um, having a firm belief in certain claims that they make, and when presented with views to the contrary, maybe even becoming very upset about it, that sort of thing. Anyways, the point is that there's a general context, I think, in which people come together, and the same pattern is seen even in online communities, in my view. I've been around like a lot of different places on the internet. So like the example I'm talking about now is it's a Discord server, mostly a Discord server that people found out about mostly through a website. And then maybe friends tell friends about this website and this Discord server, and then people could become friends. So the mechanisms by which it people hear about these things, that's another story. The main claim I'm making here is that I think that it's we have a lot of success in certain places, like this Discord server, whereas you could find a lot of places where there isn't success. So you could ask, why do certain places succeed and why do other places not succeed? So I'll give you an example of maybe a sort of online community I've seen that has not succeeded, and then or at least a couple examples of that, and then we could talk about how that contrasts with ones that do succeed. Okay, so I think that XAW server does succeed, and it has a central person that a lot of people are interested in, person and his work. So I think that that's a very natural arrangement, and that you might go to a restaurant because you like to be at the restaurant, and maybe you know the bartender, something. That would be very, very normal. So here I think we have an equivalent example of that sort of on the internet. Now, on the other hand, I think that there's a lot of servers, oftentimes set up by corporations or companies or official organizations, where people do not really start to talk with each other or get to know each other. It could even be that there's like certain people that are paid to be there, maybe to moderate or to do official promotions. But people could actually care less about the place itself, and you see a lot of turnover. So, for example, I think a lot of very large servers are like this. By servers here, I'm talking about Discord servers, but maybe if you looked at YouTube channels, Twitch channels, whatever, I imagine you would see similar dynamics. If anybody has any insight, feel free to share your thoughts on this. Anyways, my experience with a lot of these things is sometimes you have these organizations and stuff that are just simply too big, such that people, they are not able to get to know each other or to see each other. Oh, hello, Cortez Phoenix. We have another person that's come to join us. Okay, so we're talking about internet communities now, and I'm giving examples of internet communities that I think don't work. And one of the examples is things that are just way too big. So when you go to certain events that's just way too big, like let's even say a concert, okay? You might go to a concert. If it's a really big concert, you might know the people that you went there with. But if you go there by yourself and you aren't like an insider in some way, chances are, you're just going to pay for the show, which isn't a bad thing if that's what you went there to do. But you wouldn't go to such a thing just hoping or expecting to make friends. Likewise, I could go to the shopping mall. It's possible I might make friends at the shopping mall, But chances are the way in which I would make friends at the shopping mall would be I would go with some people I already know, at the shopping mall, and maybe they would see some people that they already recognize or something kind of like that. But you wouldn't just go there and make friends because it's like, what do you have in common with the people around you? What sort of common goal do you have? So I think in a lot of these big servers, like let's just say, as a hypothetical, maybe we could confirm this on another stream another day. Like if I went to one of the official Microsoft Discord servers, they probably exist. I don't see why they wouldn't. Okay, so if you went to such a place, I think first there would be a distinction of sort of in group and then out group. The in group would be people that are in some capacity officially affiliated, um, and thus probably paid by Microsoft. So if you have like senior developers, maybe some student intern that got some cool research grant, something like that, I think you would get a lot of those sorts of people in that place, and then you might get a lot of just anonymous people or people that are normal people. Like I think I'm a normal person who might join such a thing just to look to say like, oh, what are they talking about at Microsoft, or oh yeah, maybe I could meet someone here. Um, but it would be kind of like going to that concert or like a basketball game or something. You'd kind of go in, you'd look around, you'd be like, oh wow, there's a lot of people here, and then you would kind of go out. You might even say, hello. Oh, I like to use PowerShell. um, Halo is a cool video game. I don't know what you would say. Um, and then before you know it, it's just one server of very many on places that you've looked at, and you probably will leave. You like, why would you stick around? Some people, I think, they just join a bunch of servers and they just stay on them. But if you had to take inventory and say, where are these places that I actually use and care about, and what are the places that I don't really care about, you would pretty quickly conclude that you don't really care about that. I think this is all very natural. It's just like you might remember the friends that you went to a shopping mall with or that you went to a concert with, and you might even, well, you probably will remember the concert venue itself. Um, but all the other people and stuff that were around you and there, you'll just remember, oh yeah, I was at this concert and there was a lot of people. Maybe you'll remember some characteristics about them, like, oh yeah, I went to this football match and there was a lot of people, and I think a lot of them were drunk, right? You might remember or notice something like that. But crucially, for the point of this talk, um, you don't really make friends or build something that lasts by there. The mechanism in which something like a football game or whatever makes friends is if you have like a regular group of people who are interested in it, and you have some sorts of activities that you do, such that people are able to see the same group of people again and again, and thus form connections, do business, and so on and so forth, right? Um, you get a bunch of like there's this Chinese American book, the Joy Luck Club, right? You get people that come together and they play, mahjong together. Well, these people might stay friends for a very long time and follow each other throughout their lives. That's one of the parts that made that novel popular, I think, is because a lot of people could relate to that. I think that there's a lot of other activities. Um, well, I'll even say sometimes it doesn't even matter what the activity is. Like, we'll often just do things just because people we want to get to know better, or that we don't even choose, just family members or something. There's people in our lives that do something, and then you do it just because they do it, and then that will give meaning to the event because you're there. Um, the activity is a shared context that brings people together, but you do the thing just to do the thing, because if you weren't doing the thing, then what would you be doing? You would be um, by yourself at home, twiddling your thumbs. So let's kind of go back to technology and XAW server and streaming in general. I think that there's a lot of people online these days that in some form or another they want to do better than they're currently doing in something. Um, it could be that they want to make more friends. They have a hard time making friends. Maybe there's health stuff that they're working through. Maybe they want to get outside, walk around more, lose weight, whatever it might be. So I think that, or we'll go to a more uh, spiritual and or intellectual thing. I think there's a lot of people who want to make sense of the world. They want to find out what's happening, and they want to seriously talk with other people who are also interested in that. Now, this is all very broad and general, but I think that it is the sort of context that is strong enough to bring people together and to make groups. Um, and it's people that gravitate around other people. So that's why I was giving this XAW server as an example. XAW Lee is an individual, and a lot of people find this whole cloud of different things that he's interested in. They find these things interesting, and so they follow a person and the group that forms around this person. Uh, Me personally, one of the things that I found really interesting about the XAW Lee website and what he does is the history stuff. So not just technology, but looking at the history of technology. It's not just like, oh, the technology is getting better. Because you look at the history and then you say, are people reinventing the wheel? Are people going in circles? Did people make things more complicated? Did people make things worse? All of these are very interesting topics to me, especially when we're often presented in school and stuff with a rather linear narrative of progress. Whereas you seriously study something like software design, you might conclude, well, I don't think that progress is linear in that way. Uh, and another thing that I think XAW has interesting is like a lot of art and social stuff, which is interesting because just as there's actual programming and actual computers, which is often people sitting in cubicles and air-conditioned rooms typing on plastic keyboards. Then there's also the whole mystique and like the hacker stereotype, all these sort of myths that are built up around these technologies, and it's comical sometimes to see like how do you depict a hacker in a 80s movie or whatever versus what is it actually like to work as a computer programmer. Working as an actual computer programmer, you're staring at documentation. Maybe if you're a very productive person, you take out a piece of paper and work through some data model, something like that. Very quite slow and a lot of work, but then you see these movies, it's people typing away, flashing lights, some cool synth wave music, whatever it might be. That's to say that, yeah, so XAW I think, made an interesting, very interesting network of websites, and there's a lot of people that have gathered around a person who shares interests and projects with them. So a person, who are the sorts of people we meet? A lot of people who are interested in technology and they want to know what the best technology is, what works, what doesn't work, what sucks, what doesn't suck. But there's a common search, and I think that's what brings so many people together. So why would I care to stream, and who am I? Well, I'm a person too who's interested in a lot of these similar questions. I also don't mind having schedules and doing things regularly. So I don't think there'll be a competition with Kasal and some other people. Um, but I think that by choosing to publicly make some videos and to bring some conversations about various topics and stuff I've had with friends I've met online, to bring these together in some kind of shared form or context, this could be a very useful way in which we could make the best use of the internet. So I'll rewind and I'll go back to this public park analogy. So I at the start of the stream, I began giving this analogy to say, we all pay taxes anyways, but a surprisingly few number of people actually go out to the public park and make use of what they have to pay for, whether they want to or not, assuming they're people that pay their taxes. So in the same way, I would say about this that we have this thing called the internet, and part of the internet now is big tech. Whether you like it or not, I think that big tech is here and it's going to stay, at least for a long while, for the foreseeable future. I'll say, only God knows what will happen, but for the foreseeable future, we have big tech here. So, how could we make the best use of big tech? My thesis project is that I think that a lot of the natural forms of organization that we find is that people who share some sort of goal together, and that could be very abstract, such as finding out what is true in the world or how to use software productively. It could be any number of things. People that are interested in the same topics tend to gather together. And what is it that they gather around? I think that what lasts and what continues is not so much like a company or a brand, but it will always return to people. So for this particular stream, I gave the example of how I've seen over the past couple years or so a community, you could say a kind of community, a consistent following at least, arise around our friend Ksali here and the work that he's done. And I think that this space of having public people that talk about important issues to try to better understand things, I don't think it is a space, it's not a winner-take-all space. There's room for a lot of people. And of course, when you have people talking with other people, this opens up a whole new, I'm sure there's a mathematical term to talk about how the possibilities for stuff to happen expand with that. So if people are interested, I intend to do more streams, especially as there's stuff that I'd be looking at and researching and talking with other people about anyways. So the challenge to me and to anybody else who might be interested in doing a similar sort of thing, I think, is why don't you go public with what you're doing anyways? If you're already paying the taxes, you're already, doing the things, what is stopping you from taking it up a notch? You already practice guitar and there's an opportunity to join a band. Why do you not join the band? That's, I think, you could say, maybe the internet is like a big mountain that is before some people. And to some people, the mountain says, why don't you try to climb the mountain? And some people, I don't think everybody needs to climb the mountain. But if you live right next to the mountain, you spend a lot of time looking at stuff on the mountain, why not climb the mountain? So that is why I have decided to at least make this initial test, looking at this technology, setting up this software, OBS, and trying my first YouTube stream. So thank you everybody that joined, and I think, we're a bit over an hour now. I think that will do it. I'll end the broadcast now. Thank you everyone for joining.